Taking down the hulking beast that is the Holy Roman Empire can be quite the task for many players. Taking it over from the outside takes forever, since there are many kingdoms and duchies within its de facto and de jure borders. Taking it over from the inside can feel pointless, since often a new Kaiser is met with difficulty electing their heir to the throne. It can sometimes feel easier to make a dissolution faction and tear down the entire empire, but the only thing that sucks about that is not getting access to those sweet artifacts that the title comes with. There's another way to ruin the empire, while taking its land and artifacts for yourself. We're going to go through that process in this video on today's Gigachad guide. This is how to optimally dismantle the Holy Roman Empire and yoink its artifacts for yourself. By the way, this video is a continuation of the previous Gigachad guide on William the Conqueror. Check that video out to see how we got where we are now. The best way to take down the empire is, of course, to join it. This is a pretty bog standard maneuver where we're going to swear fealty to the Holy Roman Empire and gain some internal power within it. The moment we join, we get ourselves some council rights by raising our feudal levy contribution, just like normal, blah blah. This is similar to the previous video where we meritocracy our way into the throne. Where this is a little different is that with our council rights we become chancellor. This is because we're going to need a lot of prestige for what we're doing in William's lifetime. As well, we need to learn some languages to get people to actually like us. Go ahead and learn High German, Saxon, and Italian Vulgar. In my case, I also learned Oil Vulgar because I rule France, but your game may differ. Unfortunately, the gameplay behind learning languages and using meritocracy is mostly non-existent, so basically, I sat around waiting for these schemes to happen. In the meantime, build up the domain and use feasts and hunts to stack up more prestige. I always focus economic buildings, then military buildings personally. Once you do get the claim, don't push it yet. Remember, it's a pressed claim, and there's no real rush to use it, so before doing anything, get the rest of the meritocracy tree of perks so we can get perks like Likeable and Toe the Line. These perks make ruling multicultural empires like the HRE much easier. As well, Administrator just outright gives more vassal opinion. So, since we're on the topic of prestige and peacetime stuff to do, your big focus on prestige may have the answer given to you if you're lucky enough to get a crusade targeting a weak region. In my game, the Pope called a crusade against Valencia. This happened despite Jerusalem being ruled by Muslims, but it works out for us, no matter how nonsensical it is. Crusades are a great way to get insane prestige and piety, since a successful crusade creates a ton of both for the highest contributor. Valencia is pretty close to our realm, so we also have a genuine interest in controlling it for our house. I'm going to assign it to my daughter, Emma, who will hopefully do a good job ruling it when we win. The classic crusade strategy works great here. We're going to send in the entire army against the Muslims here and see if we win. If it's a win, then great, more war score and a bunch of contribution. If we lose though, it's still good. A bit of war score down, but we get insane contribution for it, so it's great. Once we retreat, we stand down the army and let it reinforce safely while saving money on the army too. Meanwhile, the other crusaders will hopefully wear them down, and based on how that goes, we either win or lose the crusade. In this case, things work out nicely, and we do win, with the highest contribution too, putting Emma on the throne of Valencia. We'll see how long this Crusader King rules that region, but regardless of what happens, we get a pretty massive payout of prestige and piety, as well as extra renown from an independent king-tier realm being ruled by the de Normandy house. With that little side quest out of the way, we return to the normal realm affairs: building domain, educating kids, and building prestige. That being said, William is getting a little old, so we have to hurry things up a bit or else all this prestige goes to waste. Something interesting actually happened as a direct consequence of my fealty to the HRE. The Confederate partition setup of the HRE meant that additional empire titles would be made upon the emperor's death. Can you guess which extra empire would be created when that happened? That's right, Francia, with just me and the Burgundian dukes under it. This sort of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, although the moment it happened, I understood what was going on and immediately plotted to undo it, without compromising the integrity of the Holy Roman Empire. It was time to meritocracy again. My god, this perk is just so horrifically broken, I'm sorry. Given that I control all of England, and all of Francia, except Burgundy, this will be an extremely quick and easy war for the actual empire title. Mow through the Frankian Empire and become emperor yourself. My goal, however, is not to be a sister empire to the HRE. I still have my claim on the HRE from all that time back, so at this point, since I'm free now, it's time to unite these empires. There was, however, one unforgivable crime that happened as a result of my negligence: the Franco-Franconian culture. I am truly sorry for this blight upon the realm, but in the brief time that the Franconian emperor ruled over Francia, he created a hybrid. I can't go back now to erase my crimes. I can only stare at it in horror. Burgundy, Wallonia, Savoy, and Lorraine remain the last vestiges of original French culture. Moving on from that Geneva Convention's violation, we look on to further ambitions, taking the Holy Roman Empire. This war will be quite easy since we have an absolutely booming economy with strong men-at-arms. This is a teachable moment. Men-at-arms absolutely dominate in combat above anything else, and men-at-arms are available based on money more so than anything else. I have just over 1,000 longbowmen, a bit of siege equipment, and some armored footmen. These units are extremely good and will basically carry the war against the Empire for us. At the end of the day, you can take down just about any opponent with good men-at-arms, particularly if you build the right domain buildings to buff them. As highlighted in the previous guide, building stuff that increases the strength of your particular men-at-arms will significantly increase their power, but even without that, they'll still do amazingly. Regardless of that, the HRE also had a recent succession, and is ruled by a relatively average emperor in terms of talent, so this will be easy. My war strategy when fighting a big empire is usually to beeline for the capital by assaulting through castles on the path to it, and just hoping to outsiege them. This genuinely works pretty well in most cases, except against empires like the Mongols, whose capital can be too far away to get to quickly. Once I get the capital, I turn around and disband. This prompts the AI to return to their sieged holdings and try to take them back. In the meantime, my men are on a 6-month break, reinforcing and saving me money. Once they're ready, I raise them again. We go in, win the battles, redo any lost sieges, if there were any, and then repeat this until I can enforce demands. Simple. Anyway, the war is over, and Francia has expanded. Let's go look at those juicy HRE artifacts and equip them for now, but we're doing more with them later. The next move involves the covert conquest of the entire realm through what I like to call de jure usurpation. This is the name I've invented for my strategy from the All Achievement Guide that I used to do many things. It's called de jure usurpation because we're going to use de jure allegiance to absolutely ruin the empire. In case you don't know, de jure allegiance is the system of feudal hierarchy that CK3 uses to assign vassals and sub-vassals. Essentially, all de facto titles owe de jure allegiance to some kind of higher title except for empires, which are at the top of the food chain. For example, the County of London has de jure allegiance to the Duchy of Essex, which in turn owes allegiance to the Kingdom of England, which in turn also owes allegiance to the Empire of Britannia. The same applies to the Holy Roman Empire and its kingdoms, duchies, and counties. One of the biggest issues of holding the HRE is that it is an elective title, and removing that election from the title is expensive, 10,000 prestige expensive. When you lose the election, it can feel like you've lost all the progress you had in controlling the empire, but there's a way to keep that progress: de jure usurpation. So, go ahead and create every single kingdom title in the entire empire, all of them. This is expensive, but hey, I'm making 50 gold a month. That's about a title per year, so pretty easy. Spam out those kingdoms, and now all the dukes of the empire pay allegiance to me first before the empire title. For example, the Duke of Angria owes allegiance to the title of Germany first before the Holy Roman Empire. When I lose the Holy Roman Empire, for whatever reason, that duke in Angria will be my vassal under Germany. Easy. The only kingdom we can't get is Bohemia, since it already exists, and we can't create it or usurp it without revoking it. Luckily enough for me, the current king of Bohemia is a complete coward, and I just asked him for that title, taking some tyranny. He accepted. Now we've got every kingdom title for real. I also went ahead and switched to partition succession, since I don't want extra empires breaking off and making succession weird. Also, side note, it looks like Emma over in Valencia died and was succeeded by the child king, Guy, who luckily is a genius. I guess in English it's Guy, but I read it as Guy because French brain. Okay, whatever. Despite that, he doesn't seem to be doing so well. Rip de Normandy Valencia. Like his father, William was hitting his 60s, meaning his time is almost up. There are a couple more things to do. Firstly, secure the succession. In this case, William had a few sons, and one of them caught my eye. Namely, it was William. I'm not even joking. This was not for a meme. William was unironically the best pick, as well as being perfectly named. It just works. There was one more thing to do as the Roman Empire, and that was to conquer Rome. I usurped the kingdom of Romagna, giving me a de jure CB to Latium, which I used to grab that land off the Pope. Now it's truly a Holy Roman Empire. From there, William the Red mostly just let time pass. He enjoyed his old age, spent it with family, I guess. He was also thinking about how much he regretted allowing Franco-Franconian culture to exist, but the damage was done. He passed away at the age of 61, outliving his father, William, by 1 year. He also didn't notice that his wife gave birth to another son. He must have been too busy, spending time with family. Either way, he accidentally birthed an extremely ugly Italia under his son, Geoffrey. Well, that's William the Red. It's time to look at William II of the Holy Roman Empire. King of England, France, Aquitaine, Lotharingia, Germany, Burgundy, Bavaria, Frisia, Brittany, and Bohemia, Duke of Essex and Kent, and Earl of all those lands. What a list of titles, my goodness. Normally, I'd like to have these Gigachad guides cover one character life at a time, but since the goals of William the Red and William II are kind of interconnected, this video will cover both of their lives, making this a double-length Gigachad guide. I did, after all, promise to show you how to get the HRE artifacts without needing the title. As a diplomatic character, William II is a great ruler for the HRE. Having insane diplomacy lets you get away with ruling an empire of many cultures without having to deal with constant factions, as well as making bribes more effective. That being said, William's goal here is actually to end his own empire for reasons that will become clear later on. This will involve mostly just some setup and waiting, along with some good old domain building. I hate to say this, but this character's life will mostly be boring, and then suddenly ramp up into being extremely interesting. Our goal is to take all the artifacts from the HRE, then leave the HRE without losing those artifacts. Let's get into it. We'll get into it, that is, of course, after we eliminate the horrific border gore in Italy. This war will be easy given that our brother Geoffrey is 1 year old and has no power whatsoever. Ah, that's much better. With that done, I also want to get rid of those little pagans up north just because they don't fit the aesthetic of the map nicely, so we're going to get them too. It's also just to pass the time, to be honest. Unfortunately for me though, well, perhaps fortunately actually, my laziness about managing the realm allowed an independence faction to rise up. I didn't even see that one was brewing, but I can put it down pretty easily, especially with a surprise alliance with Castile. I'm going to use this opportunity to revoke a bunch of land from these various Germans so I can replace them with proper Englishmen. Although the numbers might seem like a close fight, the number of longbowmen and armored footmen we have makes this war easier than it looks. Longbowmen really are just that good, especially with the domain to buff them. I'm going to mostly skip through the idling of William II's life since he doesn't do a whole lot with his time besides try to raise an heir. My goal is to get myself a good heir to play as before doing the great HRE artifact heist. Essentially, William conquered the rest of Italy, except Sicily. He vassalized some people in Sardinia and in Wales, and then put a claimant onto the throne of Scotland. Teachable moment here, by the way. I married my daughter matrilineally to a Scottish claimant, bringing him into my court. I then pushed his claim to the throne of Scotland. This makes him my vassal too. The lesson here is that you can conquer a foreign kingdom as an empire pretty easily by just marrying a claimant to bring them to your court. Remember that matrilineal marriages bring the man to the woman's court, but regular marriages do the reverse. The other major event was a crusade for Badajoz? Yeah, I don't know what's up with the Pope. No Jerusalem, but I'm not complaining, to be honest. Jerusalem is way harder to take than the little Iberian kingdom, so it's free wins as far as I'm concerned. It was an easy crusade, and I used the same strategies for this crusade as the previous one, except I didn't lose any battles. Easy peasy. From there, I conquered more pagans in Pomerania, inherited Badajoz after giving it to a distant relative with no heir, and I vassalized the Pope. In case you're wondering how to vassalize the Pope, by the way, here's another teachable moment about de jure casus bellis. If you de jure conquer a county, it will vassalize that character if it's their only county, and will add it to your domain if it's not. For example, when I de jure claimed the Duchy of Latium early, it gave Rome, Tivoli, and Viterbo to me directly. In this case though, the Pope has exactly two titles, the Papacy and the County of Orbitello. I'm going to de jure claim this County of Orbitello, the Pope's only title, which will force him to become my vassal when I win. This is far superior to just taking the county, since a head of faith vassal gives extra reasons to do most things for you, like giving money, giving claims, divorces, etc. Vassalizing the Pope is extremely pog, although because we're planning to get rid of the Empire anyway, we won't be having the Pope as a vassal for too long. There's an elephant in the room to discuss though. I'd like to address a mistake that happened under my watch during this video and explain how I've made up for it. Under my vigilance, a culture named Franco-Franconian came to be. This is a crime against at least 420 laws in about 69 states and provinces across the Western Hemisphere, and illegal according to Napoleonic Code in 3 EU member states. I would like to face trial today for my crimes and offer restitution. My restitution is, if you can't beat them, join them. I have hybridized with the Franco-Franconians and formed Neue Normannisch culture.
We think the offer is an insult.
The name is basically the German word for new and the Old English construction for what Norman would be based on how suffixes work in Old English. If you have a problem, ping me on Discord airing your upset and I might just cope and eliminate the Franco-Franconians next video. That's up to you.
We think that the compensation being offered is not commensurate.
With that out of the way, let's get back to the goal of the run. We've done enough stalling now. My heir, who by the way, by coincidence, is William, has reached adulthood. In fact, he's 17, I didn't even notice that he grew up. So here's the plan. Unequip every artifact that is inherited along with the Holy Roman Empire. Then, gift those artifacts to your son. He shall be the holder of them now. For whatever reason, even though some artifacts are meant to be inherited along title lines, the individual can simply give them out anyway. Now the titles have been unlinked from the HRE title. They simply exist. I'm going to add back the princely elective succession to the HRE and then vote for one of my daughters as a way to get myself unelected. Then I'm going to attempt to imprison one of my vassals and fail intentionally. This will trigger a tyranny war, which I will surrender to. When I surrender, I get deposed and play as my son, William, who will also not inherit the HRE. Despite that, he will own all the artifacts I gifted to him a moment ago. So there it is. HRE artifacts on a non-HRE character. It would of course be possible to do this via just stealing the artifacts with diplomacy perks, but notice that by doing this, I don't have to spend any prestige on getting the claims, nor do I have to steal them. I simply give them away to my heir, and boom, they're mine for good now. You'll also notice that thanks to my de jure usurpation of the realm, I'm a vassal of the HRE, but let's take a look at how this empire looks. Ah yes, the entire realm, except the Pope, Scotland, and my brother in Italy are my vassals. I rule this realm effectively. Let's get our independence and leave this empire. Oh wow, that was easy. Next, we kill our father, William, to get rid of the only real claimant to the English throne, as well as to inherit his claims to Italy. This will secure William IV's rule over the Kingdom of England, Wales, France, Aquitaine, Brittany, Germany, Lotharingia, Frisia, Bohemia, Burgundy, Pomerania, and so on. Oh my god. This is the state of William IV of England and associated titles, and his realm. His father is dead. He is free of the Holy Roman Empire's grasp. He has the great artifacts of Charlemagne's empire. He can set his eyes on several directions. Maybe it's time for an Iberian foothold. Perhaps the Byzantine Empire needs to face the same fate as the Holy Roman Empire. Maybe it's time to have 20 kids and allow the realm to split amongst the de Normandy family. So many options for William IV, but the real question is whether or not he will name his heir William. I swear to God, I have not been naming these kids. Half the time, I don't even notice that I have kids. They just keep on being Williams. It's insane. Either way, this is where I will leave off this double Gigachad guide. We've successfully entirely dismantled the HRE, taking on its artifacts along with its land for ourselves. We rule over an extremely rich domain over in England, along with generating immense prestige to all the kingdoms we rule. We'll follow the exploits of William IV of England on the next Gigachad guide, as we look to accomplish any of several goals that are available to him. If you want to see more of the de Normandy family, we're gonna need
10,000 likes,
or else we'll move on to a new family or something. Check out my Twitch if you want to see live CK3 speedruns, by the way. Check out my Patreon if you want to read about me learning German so I can make videos in German. Check out my Discord so you can ping me about the war crimes. And subscribe to this video and like it so that it can, you know, I don't know, make me money. Whatever, dude. Also, as more transparency, I have attempted to speak during this video more slowly, since I've gotten comments on the past couple of videos about my speech speed. If you approve, comment so. If you don't, comment that. Thank you for your time.